Hello, everybody. Richelle Mordecai here, your host of The Visionary Effect, the podcast for true visionaries. And today I have the great honor and privilege to have with us Micah Jefferson. And Micah and I, and he doesn't even know this, we met at a very interesting time in my life. I usually say that my life as an entrepreneur has had waves, and some of those were tsunami waves. And the other day, as I was pondering the year of 2022, Micah was part of this big tsunami wave of my life of new accomplishments, new ideas, and he was totally a booster, if you will, to the life that I've been living the last few years and the people that I have met. And for that, I thought about bringing him here today and the lessons learned. Micah has a beautiful family, has built a very successful business in restoration, but life for him, like for many of us, was not restoration as our childhood dream. So before I steal his thunder and talk about his life, Micah, welcome to our podcast. And why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Thanks, Richelle. I appreciate you having me on. I didn't, I didn't realize the that time in your life. I do remember. I do remember back in 22 because you. It was actually I think Jeff Dean that introduced me to you over Facebook when we were kind of looking for some sales help. Okay, so what do you ask me to do? Introduce myself?
Introduce yourself. Tell us about who was Micah before you joined the industry.
Micah, before I joined the industry, I spent a lot of years in at a telecommunications company called Level 3 Communications in Colorado. They started out during the .com period back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I got hired on pretty much straight out of college. Worked there for almost 20 years. Kind of hit a point in my life where it was, make a decision to either continue there and retire or, do something different. And it was kind of getting to an age where I spent a lot of time there. I was there till 6, 7 o'clock at night because it was about an hour from my house. I'd have to leave pretty early. So just, decided that I wanted to try something different. Always had a dream of owning my own business. So, kind of hit a midpoint in my life where, decided to take that risk and try something different.
And
So
here we
yeah,
are. And
here
here
we
we
are.
are.
Yeah.
Here we are. How's your mom, by the way? I haven't said hi to your mom in a long time. I do
My
it
mom's doing very well.
LinkedIn social media because I know she's
Yeah.
involved on
Yeah.
that, but say hi to her for me. Very good. Um, so yeah, so it's interesting that you didn't know. I think it's so it amazes me every day, and I'm very grateful and very blessed that God has put in my way the people that I needed to meet to become who I needed to become. So on that note, what would you say was like the biggest vision or biggest goal that you had in life, and who were the people that you were blessed with to help you get to that?
That's you had kind of pre-warned me that you were going to ask this question. I kind of I gave it some brief thought. I don't think I've ever had a set goal in life. I've had a series of goals along the way. When I was in college, I went skiing out in Lake Tahoe with my family for a week, and I had a goal of moving out to Colorado and finding a job. When I moved to Colorado, I had a goal of buying a a house for 300K, and now you can't even buy anything in Colorado that costs.
You buy
You know,
you buy you buy a door for 300.
yeah, exactly. You can you can buy a room in a house now. So I think I've had set goals along the way. My ultimate goal, is to retire somewhere near salt water that isn't at hurricane risk where I can fish and boat a lot. That's my ultimate goal. My life has been more about goals along the way. 2, 3, 4 year goals along the way.
So
So
So your vision, in a sense, were small goals that you accomplished, and then
Yep.
next goals that were accomplished. So a series of goals that made you who you are. Uh,
That's pretty much it.
that's awesome. That's awesome. How was it for you to leave a 20-year career and venture into an industry that most of us or people that listen to don't even know exists until they have some challenges with their property? What was that like for you?
It- and I've reflected on this a lot lately. With some of the challenges we have today, you know, and thinking about, t taking risk and taking some risks today. And, I'm like, sometimes I look back on it, I'm like, holy shit, I really did that. And hopefully I can say, hopefully you don't have to edit that out. But, it, at the time I had just reached a point where I was burnt out. I was done. I'd been in my career for 20 years. Um, my father had always dreamed of owning his own business and never accomplished that. And my mom had given him her full support. And, I was talking to my mom and she recommended a entrepreneur's coach who I saw. And, she started to pitch a bunch of IT franchises or IT companies. And, I told her, I said, Stephanie, I'm still done with IT right now. Like, that's the last thing I want. So she pitched Restoration One, and I noodled on it. My wife and I prayed on it a lot. You know, it, I will say my wife was not initially supportive. The real blessing I had was the company I worked for had been bought by a larger company the year previously. So I was able to get a pretty good severance package, which kind of helped set us up monetarily for success. The real kicker is my wife, lost her job pretty much right about the time I was starting this. So that really that put a lot of fear in us, and you know, really we were scared for a while there, but we got through it. And we've had a lot of success over the past 5 years, and now my wife is our CFO and does a very, very good job of that.
You did a fantastic job at that,
Yeah,
man.
she
Her,
does. She
her
she
mind,
really does.
her
Yeah,
mind.
that's a better word.
And I love that you said that you guys prayed on it. She was initially not supportive, and then things changed, and this became the only option. And I've been thinking a lot about this in my life and the life of many God-fearing entrepreneurs that I work with, that they were like, the scariest thing that I did was the blessing that I needed to propel my success because I had no other options,
Yep.
right? And I thought,
Sometimes you need that.
yeah, and I think it's so good because I've been looking at my last 4 years, having left a corporate job in the industry, and then within trying to figure out like what is the next step, and with that position no longer being available, and with me for 1 year prior to that being like, I need to consult, I need to consult, I need to consult. And then I was interviewing a friend of mine that he said, isn't that great that uh, that when the options were removed from you, within 48 hours, I signed my first client. And that was and it was during COVID. It was super scary. The other business that I had with my husband, which was a storefront, we had to close, and it was an amazing year. Meaning, COVID was tragic for a lot of my friends and family. And because I was part of this industry and some of the opportunities, and also because the options were removed from me, that I was able to have that. And you guys have done the same. So that's awesome. Since you work with your wife, what are some of the greatest lessons that you've learned from having a beautiful family, having an amazing marriage, and also working together?
I think the my wife and I, our first 15 years of marriage, she was a consultant, so she traveled full time. Um, we had a full-time au pair for most of the time our kids were young, and I was not at home as much as I would have liked. And when we um, when she lost her job, and we stopped getting all we stopped our last au pair and realized we were going to have to live together. That was a little scary, because we had not done that for a decade and a half. Then we decided to throw a little more fun on top of it and work together. And I'll tell you, a lot of people come to me and are like, how can you do that? That's got to be so difficult. And it's been one of the biggest blessings, being able to work with my wife. I know that, she is the person I can trust the most here. Um, do we get into a lot of spirited discussions? 100%. But when we're having those conversations, I know, that she has the best interest in this company in mind, and she's only, arguing with me about, she's our CFO, she controls the money, and, I may be the CEO, but I guarantee everybody in this company fears her more than they do me, because, she does a very good job of saving our money and making sure we spend our cash wisely. And, with some of the slowdown we've seen in the past year, I've been very thankful that she's been in that position. So it's been really good for our marriage. There are times where it is difficult. We struggle with bringing things home too much. I think we've gotten a lot better about that. That's frankly been led by her, about coming home and really focusing on our children. Our children are getting close to college age, and we want to make sure we spend that time with them before they go off to newer and brighter things. So yeah.
That's so many great things that you shared here.
Yeah.
So, and I remember one of my last projects with you guys, working with her on the scorecard and looking at the numbers and the questions that she asked, and her mind is just brilliant for that. It's like, okay, Richelle, we do this. What is this gonna do for us? And what is the projection? Let's make the adjustments. But one of the things that I loved about what you said was you used the word blessing a lot. So I wanted to ask you this. What impact do you think that your faith and your core values had on not only opening the business, but creating growth and also dealing with challenges?
I think, and I think the most difficult part about faith, or the most difficult challenge I have with faith, and this is where, my wife excels a little more than I do, is trusting that there is a plan, and there's a reason behind everything, and you can do, you can't get in the what you that plan's going to happen no matter what you do, and you need to just trust in that plan. And that's been very difficult for me for the past year or so, as we've kind of seen the downturn in the industry. And I know there is a plan there, and I think I know at the end of the day that that plan is going to be a good plan for us, hopefully come this winter. But it is, it's a challenge for me to I want to fight that plan to death right now, because there is it's a challenging time right now. So yeah, I hope I answered that question. I'm not really sure I did.
You did, because it's like I'm hearing my own voice in my head, because being a visionary, most of my life I lived on the if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And when I don't know what new thing to do, I do more of the last thing that produced work. And I had to surrender to my faith for me is if I believe that God knows best and that there is a lesson behind everything, that me fighting a grander plan was me just hurting myself, because then I was able to look back in some situations of my life that I'm like, all the energy wasted when I could have just taken a deep breath and recharged, which is like pretty much how I introduced you and how you guys came into my life. I had right before I met you guys, I had to make some challenging decisions of letting go of three of my biggest clients because our values no longer aligned, and because my association with them was going to be hurting my brand, because they were not following a plan. And it was really, really hard because, one of our business had closed and all of that. And it was really hard. But then I experienced with that new wave of 2022 of working with you, amazing things. Like my Facebook was reminding me that 2 years ago, I had just come back home from a training and I was in a plane to go to the Caribbean to do sales masters in the most beautiful setting ever. And that all kind of aligned with the time that we started working together. So when I look back, I I'm looking at those lessons, and I'm sure you do as well, to be able to say, okay, if it had if it turned out good before, why wouldn't it turn out great this next time around? Right.
Yeah.
Once I know my lessons, I think that's a good thing. So let's talk about compartmentalizing, because you also said that you and Jen, when you come home, the focus is the kids, and she's great at compartmentalizing. It's part of her personality type. But how does it work for you? And what are the benefits that you have experienced in your life as an entrepreneur, as a visionary, to be able to compartmentalize your life and say, this is work, this is life, and this is time with my family? What are some of the lessons learned that you can share with us?
I think, one of the things I've been able to do is, when I set my own schedule. I set my own meetings, so if my daughter has some event or my son has some event in the middle of a school day, at noon on a Wednesday, I can go do that now. These are things I was not able to do before. I was 45 minutes away. My schedules, were set, by other meetings, other executives. So it was very hard for me to kind of just depart the office for a while and go do things. I think that's been one of the great things is, I've been able to spend a lot more time watching my kids do different things, go to different events with them. My wife and I, we have a condo in the mountains. We can leave on a Thursday evening and go up there, and, I can work there from there a little bit on Friday, and, spend the weekend up there. I think, that's been a really good part of it. One of the struggles I have is, when you own your own business, it's really all you ever think about, and that's the biggest struggle I have is, you have to turn that off, have to turn that off and have to clear your mind, or else you miss the bigger picture. You get that tunnel vision and you start to just, go down, I call them rat holes, and I'm great at going down rat holes of things you are trying to solve that maybe aren't part of the bigger picture that you really need to be looking at and solving. That's that's one of my biggest challenges is really kind of stepping back, looking at the bigger picture as an owner, especially the larger we grow, the harder that is for me, to really understand, what my role is and what I need to be looking at as the bigger picture, and not getting stuck in, oh, I know how to do this estimate, or I know what we need to do on this project, and letting other, you know, folks take care of that. So
It's hard to turn off sometimes, right?
it's so freaking hard.
And now that my oldest is my assistant, he says,
Oh
"Wow,
gosh.
mom, I'm glad you survived this long." And because I'm always like, okay, now this, now that, now this, now that. So yeah, it is hard. So transition.
It's real quick aside. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, no,
It's
no,
funny.
please go ahead.
My son is my son's 15. No, he just turned 16. Sorry. And he actually started to work with us in the field this summer. And dude is super smart, and he would come to me after work and say, "Hey, Dad, I think you need to train the guys on this, or I think you need to train the guys on this thing, or hey, why did we do this?" And it really it helped me understand some of kind of what we're seeing in the field and some of the things we need to work on. And it is one of the things I do. He's going to start. He just started driving last week. He's going to start coming in the mornings and cleaning equipment and vehicles and stuff. So, one of the things that also is very nice is having your kids work with you and understand the value of owning a small business and how hard it really is. So anyways, I apologize for cutting you
Oh,
off.
no, I love that. Next CEO, and him and my son Lorenzo, 2008 babies. Lorenzo is also turning 16 next month. So
Gotcha. Yep. Okay.
yeah, they're going to take over the world.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. I like that. All right, so let's play a little game of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So knowing then what you know now. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and let's see where that leads us.
Okay.
Knowing then what you know now, would you have joined the IT company after college?
100%. That's where I met my wife. That's where, we, yeah, 100%. That, yep,
Knowing then what you know now, that's a tricky one. Would you have moved to Colorado?
100%.
Hi.
Yeah. Colorado, I've really enjoyed it. I moved out here in 98. People were complaining about how busy it was then or how overcrowded it was then. It's gotten a lot more ridiculous. But I very much enjoyed Colorado. I love living in Colorado and I love all there is to do.
Very good. Knowing then what you know now, would you have joined the industry?
Yes. Yeah.
Knowing then what you know now, what questions would you have asked maybe your business coach before you had joined the industry?
That's a tough one. Say there's a lot of questions I could have asked, which maybe would have prevented some um, troubles along the way. I think a lot of it you just have to learn on your own. Honestly, I think that's part of life is you have to learn some of those lessons. The best piece of advice I got was um, from a Serve Pro franchise that the owner was in my mom's BNI group and talked about really, sustainable growth, making sure you have sustainable growth. It's great to grow, and it's awesome, but as you grow, you have to make sure you're feeding that pipeline for all those employees and everything that you're hiring along the way and making sure that's sustainable. I think we, got a little bit away from that, or maybe weren't recognizing that weren't having sustainable growth. I think that's the biggest thing is, looking at the numbers. And that's the one thing I wish I had been coached and counseled more on. And maybe that's part of, I don't have a business degree. I have an engineering degree. I didn't really take a lot of business classes. Understanding how to look at the numbers and forecasting and seeing and being able to make decisions in advance, um, one way or the other on what to spend or what not to spend. Because I think, there's some things maybe we would have done differently in the past year, if I had a better understanding of those. Don't get me wrong. My wife told me the whole time, but I didn't read it as well as she did.
The all the I told you so's conversations you guys must have had throughout the years.
She doesn't tell me that. She knows I'm my worst critic. So she knows very well that, if we have a fifth wheel and we were coming back from a vacation one year, about a year and a half ago, and I accidentally hit the poles around a gas station that are protecting the gas pumps and did some damage to our RV. And I was tired. It was 8 at night. We've been driving since 4 in the morning, so it was a little understandable. And I was kind of waiting for her to say something. She just looked at me and she said, "There's nothing I can say because I know how pissed and how frustrated you are with yourself right now." And I think that's kind of where what she's taking right now is, and when she knows I've miscalculated something or made a mistake, she knows I'm my own worst enemy or my own worst critic. So she doesn't really, try to, tell me, hey, I told you so or anything. It just makes me understand that, hey, I need to listen better.
I love that too, because that is one thing that I've seen with visionaries and definitely with myself. There's nothing that somebody can accuse me of that I haven't already accused myself, put myself in the
Right.
corner and, and taking away my own iPhone. But yeah, it's
Yep.
true because one of the things that is very common with visionaries is that we are intense by nature, and we failure impacts visionaries quite differently. So sometimes
Yeah.
the greatest thing that we can have is somebody just to say, all right, take a deep breath. And what did you learn from it? And let's keep going, which I'm blessed to, because it's the same thing in my house. My husband has a saying for me and my children that we all live by. And he says, well, in life, there's really only two options. You either rebel or you repent. And that's pretty much it. And what did you learn? And what are you going to do different moving forward? So what a blessing. All right. Knowing then what you know now, what do you think would have been the first hire for your company?
Um, Whew. Man, that's a good one. I mean, our first hire was a technician. Our second hire was our one of our first BDMs who you've met.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I think those were the right hires. So I don't think I would change it much there, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah,
So along those lines, knowing then what you know now, would you have launched your company as an ops-driven organization or a sales-driven organization?
sales.
What are some of the
Yeah,
lessons that you learned from that? Because that is a big this is a hot topic in the industry, and it's one that I try to help people to understand that you can only operate on sales. Because if you don't have sales, you don't have a business. But what are some of the lessons learned for you being in an ops-driven industry, but maybe having reprogrammed things to focus more on sales?
I think one of the things I try to espouse or try to really get across to our operations teams is, you know, we don't we're not a TPA driven organization. Our work is referrals, organic growth or from our partners. Our sales teams, if they're not able to get work or get repeat work, we're not here. We don't have jobs. And it's really, there's that balance, there's that fine balance between, hey, is a sales guy going to misspell an email every once in a while? Yeah, he is. Am I going to, punish him for misspelling email when he got a nice freaking job? No, I'm not. I'm going to tell him, like, hey, can you please remember to, ask the question or, get, repeat the email back. But, there's in all my careers, the sales ops, kind of just push on each other. It's always been there. I think where I've seen it most successful is where those leaders really partner up and have an open line of communication and work well together and make sure they understand to both their organizations that they are in lockstep and agreement and working together. And they're not, you know, they're they're not challenging each other or they're not, in some huge disagreement or anything like that. I didn't phrase that very well, but really making sure that it's understood that it's a partnership and one cannot deliver without the other. You know, a sales team can deliver the first sale from some new client. If that's not delivered right, we're not getting a sale from a second client. And that's a challenge, is making sure that that first job leads to second job and then a third job, et cetera. So I think, yeah, sales is vital, and having a good sales team is vital, and having an ops team that understands the importance of a sales role is vital. There's I'm a natural introvert. I could never be a salesperson. I go I will sometimes go to mixer events or things like that, and I'm the guy in the corner, curled up, just wanting to get out of there as quickly as possible. I have a huge amount of respect for salespeople and what they do, and their ability to garnish business, because that is not a talent that I have.
And
So
it's tough. And I remember even when you brought me in to act as your sales manager, to organize things, do the training, create some of those strategies. That is the biggest pushback in a lot of companies is ops doesn't really understand what sales has to go through to make the phone ring, to make sure that
yeah.
the relationships continue. And I think that, of course, I'm seeing from my own sales lenses, but I feel like there is more of a hatred from ops towards sales than sales towards ops. I know that sales, we get frustrated with ops all the time when they can't deliver on our promises. But I think that ops fantasizes a lot what the sales position really is all about when it's numbers driven. And
It's
you
a
and I
three
have had,
martini. It's a
yeah,
three martini lunch
I
every
know,
day.
right? And you and I have had so many discussions about that, of the numbers that are needed to produce the
Yeah.
leads, of the trajectory, of making sure that the salesperson who is the face of your company stays with you so that we have longevity in the leads, and people really don't get it. All right, as we close up here, what do you think was, what do you wish was one advice that you wish somebody would have shared with you in your beginning, in your, early stages of not only an entrepreneur coming from a job, but owning a restoration company? Or in other words, knowing then what you know now, what would you go back in time and tell yourself?
Um, Gosh, it's really the thing that comes to mind now, and it's poignant right now because of the position, because of the economy and where things are going right now, where things are at right now, you know, is, really, and we've done a good job of that, but I think we could have even done better is, look at the numbers, adjust to according to the numbers, um, save your cash, make sure you have everything set aside for, those rainy days, those downturns. We saw 5.5 years of unprecedented growth, and now we've kind of flatlined a little bit, and we're we're going to come back. It's the industry just in general right now, but making sure to really follow those numbers, look at those numbers, adjust quickly when you see them not heading in the right direction. Don't, you know, I think one of the things my wife kept saying when we saw numbers is, we were kind of wishing and hoping that they would change. It's like they're not. The numbers tell the story. They're not, you know, and you need to adjust to those numbers quickly, and you know and react quickly. And I think that's really the thing I wish I had known a little better is, when you see those numbers going a certain way, good and bad, adjust quickly and make sure you do things quickly. When they're going well, I wish we had hired a little quicker so we could have gotten more jobs, and vice versa. So I think that's paying attention to numbers, understanding what the numbers mean, and understanding how you need to react to them when they're heading in one direction or another. I think that's the
Love
big
that.
piece.
I love that because it's almost like a great way for me to pitch myself is, people, you need to know your numbers. And a lot of times it drives me insane when I get into one of those groups and they're like, how much can we expect from a BDM on the first year? How much should we pay them? And I'm like, what are your numbers? What program are you going to be implementing? So with that, Micah, thank you very, very much
Thanks for
for
having me, Shelley.
part of this. And please, guys, stay tuned. Please share this content, help other people that are part of this amazing industry. But like with any other industry, we have challenges, and it's important that we connect with other people that have paved the way for us to not have to make the same mistakes. So, Micah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley.